Hello, welcome to the Record Celtic podcast brought to you by NordVPN. My name is Daniel Shaw. I'm delighted to be joined from the Estadio Algarve by Record Sports Ryan McDonald. Ryan, a sore win for Celtic, 4-1 defeat to Sporting. What did you make of it?
Yeah, this time last year, Dan, we were here and we watched Celtic win 2-0 in the same fixture, but it was a different scoreline. this time around, shall we say, it was it was a bit of a tough night for Celtic. But look, listen, I refuse to really look too deeply into pre-season results and performances. You know, I know for a fact that the team have been doing double training sessions. It's been absolutely roasting hot out here. Clearly, 4-1 defeat doesn't look good on paper, but you know, I think Celtic will, in the next couple of weeks, I think they'll gradually get better and better. And Sporting Lisbon, you have to say as well, I think they were quarter-finalists in the Champions League last year. I know this was their first run out, but they're used to these kind of soaring temperatures as well. And it was a tough night out there. But look, to be honest, there weren't many positives to take if you look at the performance levels. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers, I know he's just back from an Achilles injury, but he obviously played last week in Dublin, but I thought he looked quite rusty, Dan.
Yeah, I agree.
He looked a yard short of pace. He was rinsed quite a few times. The back line had a really tough night. I thought they were quite slow off the mark, and Sporting were kind of getting past them with ease. They were kind of slicing them. It was like putting a knife through butter at times. So that the defence would have been a bit of a concern. I think the midfield, Paulo Bernardo again, he's been given another opportunity to impress. I don't feel he's quite grasped it at all, really. I think he looked okay in flashes. He had a shot just on the left-hand side here. The shot cleared off the line, which would have led to an equaliser. But I don't feel as if, from what we've seen so far, he's really stood out. He was obviously taken off at half-time as well. And the same goes for Michel-Ange Balakwisha, Dan.
I was going to ask you to him, Ryan, what you made of his performance.
I mean, Martin O'Neill confirmed, he said last year when we asked him what's going on with Balakwisha, why isn't he really getting much game time? I think we know why he's not getting much game time, because he looks surplus to the requirements and he's clearly not really making an impression in training. But I think Martin's keen to give the squad a clean slate, as they always do at this stage in the season, pre-season. And Balakwisha's, he started yet again in his preferred number 10 role, but he was just, we were looking at him, we had the best seat in the house in the press box, and he was floating around. He didn't really link up play. He looked lost at times. He had no really impact in the game. He looked so ineffective.
Yeah.
And yeah, he didn't really. Again, he's another one. It just looks destined for a future elsewhere. He doesn't look like a Celtic player to me. And yeah, I think he's been putting in, according to social media, he's been putting in the hard yards over the summer. But I don't think he's put that into practice in terms of his games. And I think the World Cup contingent will be due back next week as well, and they'll come back into the fold, and Martin will be keen to give them minutes. So I think Balakwisha, his 2 45-minute cameos, it's not really worked out for him.
What the big plus for Celtic yesterday was Camilo Duran, who I know was ill in the build-up to the game, and he was even a doubt to make any appearance, but he came on and got his goal.
Yeah, Camilo Duran, he made an impact. I mean, that's how you announce yourself a Celtic player, isn't it? You know, within 5 minutes he scores his first goal for the club, and I know it's only a pre-season game, Dan, right? But you know, scoring your first goal is, regardless of what game it's in, it's always nice for the confidence, isn't it? It's a confidence booster, and hopefully he'll be able to bring that into competitive matches as well, because at £6 million, Celtic have obviously spent a significant outlay, and I thought he looked sharp. He was decent, and we were speaking to Martin after the game, and he labelled him as Dyson Mutt too. Because his pressing was really impressive, and that's obviously which led to the goal. He robbed the captain of possession about 6 yards from the goal, and he obviously battled it into the back of the net from close range. So yeah, I thought that was a real positive for Celtic, the fact that he was able to get off the mark. He didn't train yesterday because he had a slight illness, but he managed to shake that off, recover today, and he was involved in a small training session this morning, and then he got his run out today. So I think he'll be happy. I think Martin O'Neill was quite chuffed with him as well.
Aye. Well, I mean, you mentioned Martin O'Neill, Ryan. I know you were talking to him after the game. I mean, I guess this result, well, it is still very early. It will hammer home the need for incoming players. Anything you can tell us? Did the Celtic manager shed any light on that?
No, there's nothing. I mean, Dan, at the moment, it's pretty much as you were. We've kind of, I think Martin is maybe getting a wee bit sick and tired of us asking for transfer updates. I think this is the fourth time now we've met him in the last 10 days, and he hasn't really been able to offer much, many updates. I did ask him if he was going to catch up with Michael Nicholson and the rest of the board when he returns to Glasgow. The team are actually flying back straight after the game. I think their flight home's in the next couple of hours, so they're flying back directly to Glasgow just now. So I think he'll obviously have a catch up. He did say that he was in regular contact with Michael Nicholson, and obviously the club confirmed just I think a few moments ago that Shin Yamada is left on loan, so he's a player that will spend the season elsewhere. So I think Martin was aware of that. He obviously wasn't involved tonight.
What about?
But yeah, I mean, sorry, talks are ongoing with Kelechi Iheanacho. I think Celtic have tabled a contract offer. They're just waiting for him to kind of make up his mind. I suppose Kelechi Iheanacho will be looking for as much money as he can get, and that's ultimately what it will probably come down to. But I think Martin's pretty hopeful of getting that one over the line. But we put a few names to him that have been linked over the last few days, and some he had never heard of, and yeah, he was he essentially had no transfers update to offer us.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Ryan. I was going to ask about Julian Araujo. He's a player that's been mentioned in the last few days. He was obviously on loan at Celtic for the second half of last season. I think he made, a pretty impressive impression. A lot of the Celtic fans became a kind of cult figure. Have you heard anything about him potentially returning this summer?
Yeah, he's an interesting one, isn't he? Because obviously Kelechi Iheanacho and Marcelo Sarachi essentially stole the limelight towards the end of the season, with obviously their game-changing, match-winning cameos from the bench. But Julian Araujo's kind of become a kind of forgotten guy now, because obviously, I mean, his loan obviously was cut short. I think it was in March time after he picked up an injury following the game at Ibrox, the Scottish Cup game at Ibrox. So, but yeah, like you said, Dan, he was a bit of a cult hero at Celtic as well, and I think Martin O'Neill was a fan of him. So I put the question to him, is Julian Araujo a player you'd like to bring back? And he didn't rule it out, but he did confess that he doesn't think that Bournemouth would be open to another loan deal. I think it would take a significant transfer fee to get him. How much that would cost, I'm not so sure. I think he joined for quite a chunky fee from Barcelona, didn't he, a couple of years ago? So you're probably looking at upwards of £8 million for the right back. So I'm not sure if that's something that Celtic would want to, if that's a figure they'd want to invest, considering you've definitely get the best right back in the country, and Alistair Johnson already there.
I was going to say that.
And you've got young Colby Donovan who started today, and you still get Anthony Ralston to come back. And as Record Sport revealed last week, the club are in talks with Anthony Ralston over a new deal. So the right back area isn't a priority, but Martin certainly refused to rule it out. And I think if that something was to happen, I think it would probably depend on maybe Alistair Johnson's future. Martin didn't say that, but I think reading into it, you'd think that, if Alistair Johnson attracts interest, which I think many people probably expect he will after such an impressive World Cup with Canada, then maybe Julian Araujo could be lined up as a replacement. But again, there's nothing in that, but he is one that Martin refused to rule out.
And just before I let you go, Ryan, just on the transfers, being around the Celtic team, being around Martin O'Neill, what is your kind of gut feeling? Is it a case that Celtic really just want to, move a lot of the players on? It seems inevitable are going to go, or I mean, I don't know. It just seems, a lot of fans, I think, would have expected to have signed more than just the one player at this point in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think it's a balancing act for Celtic as well, Dan. I know obviously there was a load of youngsters here in the Algarve and Dublin as well. I think there was 18 players on the bench tonight. Again, a big chunk of that was young academy players who will go back into the B team, I'm sure, once the club returned to Glasgow, and the senior players from the World Cup obviously come back. So, but I think it is a balancing act. Obviously, Arnie Engels is attracting interest. I think Celtic would rather sort that one out sooner rather than later. Daiza Maeda, clearly, he's made no secret of the fact that he wants to move on and test himself at the Premier League. He's another player that I think Celtic embraced. Well, Martin himself said that he's resigned to losing both of them. And then there's other players like Paulo Bernardo, Rio Hatate, Michel-Ange Balaklisha. Obviously, they've just offloaded Yamada. So there's a lot of kind of players that I think the club will need to move out. But I think in this case, Celtic need to be proactive rather than reactive. I don't think they can afford to wait to sell these players. I think it's inevitable that bids are going to come in for Arnie Engels. It's inevitable that Tyson Maeda is, he's made it clear he wants to go. So I think you're essentially just waiting for those to be signed off. So Celtic need to get replacements in the door and quickly. And it was Michael, who is bashing out coaches now, which is why he's not in the podcast. He asked the manager if it is a case of waiting for outgoings to make room for the incomings, and the manager basically said that his wish would be for players to come in before that happens. He thinks Celtic are in a position to do it. So I think it's a case of just the club acting upon that. He did confirm, he didn't give any names, but did say that there are discussions with a couple of clubs as they look to get deals over the line. But how far along those discussions are remains to be seen. But the season's 2.5 weeks away, isn't it? Until Flag Day, and I think if Camilo Duran is the only new player in the door, then I think fans who have sold out season tickets yet again. There's been, how many new strips is that? 3 new strips that's come out this summer. Plus, I think there's a stadium jersey as well, which one of the lads was talking about earlier. That's 4 new strips. There's all the training gear, so there's a ton of merchandise, getting promoted. But there isn't any. There's a shortage of new signings been unveiled. So I think Celtic could really do with putting the foot down in that. And you can understand why fans are anxious, Stan.
Absolutely.
I think Brian Wilson promised that there would be, it would be a really active. I think that was his words. A really active few weeks ahead, and so far it's not been. So I think Martin seems relatively cool about the situation. A lot of fans are worried, and you can, as I said, you can understand that. But I think Martin seems quietly confident that deals will go over the line. It's just a case of when. And he might look back in this in a few months' time, think it's a bit of a missed opportunity not to get this new signings in for this week-long training camp in Algarve, and obviously the few days they had in Dublin as well. Because like we're speaking to a few players there just off the record, and they were saying that it's been great, just a bonding session as well. It's great to get away to a new environment, and obviously they've got the new set piece coach Ross Grant who's coming in and implementing his ideas. Martin's made it clear that he wants to tweak the system as well. So I think ideally Celtic would have rallied, or Martin and he would have rallied to have these players in by now. But look, it doesn't really come as a surprise. Let's be honest. Historically, the club have kind of have done the majority of the business later in the window. But with the Champions League, it's a £40 million winner takes all match, mid-August. And we all know what happened last year against Kerry and Almaty. So the Celtic really can't afford to let that happen again. It's the last time they enter as champions at the playoff stage before, obviously, Scotland's coefficient is fallen drastically. So I think the champions next year will face a few qualifying hurdles. So I think that I think Martin would hope to have at least 3 or 4 players in by then. But you just have to wait and see.
Well, look, if and when Celtic do get some deals over the line, Record Sport is the place to find out all of the latest transfer news. But for now, Ryan, I'll let you get away and safe travels up the road when the time comes.
Cheers, Dan. I'm sure we'll catch up later in the week, and appreciate that. And catch you then.
I'm looking forward to it already. And to everyone watching and listening at home, thank you very much. And we'll be back soon. Cheers.